Hi, everybody. This is Greg Suddy on Soccer, and I have the privilege and honor to be here today with referee Ron Cory. There's not a whole lot of introduction necessary here. I think all of us know and love Ron and his wit that we get online occasionally, but more importantly, his career and his history with the game. Um, Good morning, Ron, and thank you very much for joining me today, buddy.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me on.
So, yeah, no, it's my pleasure, Ron. It really, really, truly is. Thanks for coming on with me, man. So the first thing I want to do, Ron, is I just want to sort of quickly go through your youth and your growing up. Where did you grow up? When did you start falling in love with the game of soccer, and why did you become a referee?
Well, I grew up in Topeka. Was born in Topeka, Kansas. My dad was in the Air Force for 27 years. Um, so in my early years, from 60 to about 69, my dad had been gone to Vietnam a couple of times, and that's where I grew up. And then we ended up going to Germany, and we lived in Germany for about 8 or 9 years, and that's where I learned to play soccer. And it was a good. So I'm an Air Force brat,
Wow.
and yeah, it was a great
Okay.
childhood. The things we got to do, and we probably lived, gosh, Germany, Holland. We lived in Florida. We were in Louisiana. We were in Texas. Air Force. You know, people travel all over the place. You may be one place 1 year, 2 years, but it was a good childhood, and growing up in Germany. And I like to tell this story. And I know people, I've told it before, but when I was 12 years old, my mother would give me $5 American. This is when we lived in Holland, and I would exchange that at the bank for guilders. And back then, I wanted in the 70s, I think it was 6 to 1, 5 to 1. But me and my buddy would take our bicycles and our fishing poles. We would get on a train, take the train. We lived right outside of Eindhoven. We would take the train to Amsterdam or Rotterdam, depending on what weekend we wanted to go, and we would fish there all day long. That would be like letting
So
your 12-year-old kid take the
yeah.
train up to Ontario or maybe even over to Vegas, fish all day, and then ride the train home that night. It ain't going to happen today, but we did that. We did that a
No.
lot. I fished in front of Anne Frank's house, right in that canal, right in front of the Anne Frank house, just fishing right there. So it was a great childhood. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, being in the Air Force, Army, whatever. The whole family's in the service. My sister, 30 something years, she's a lieutenant colonel in the Army. My
Oh
brother-in-law, he
boy.
was a major in the Army. They're all retired now, but
Right.
it's been a good family of service. I thank their
Wow,
Lord
that's
service.
outstanding.
And I'm the only one. I didn't go into service, and I'm like a plumber and whatever I do. But I'm proud of my family. What they've done. So
Well, that's an exciting story. A whole bunch of things came to mind. First, let me just say that I'm in a kind of a similar situation as yourself. Um, my dad was going to go to the Air Force. He was ROTC, but they had my sister was born, and their first child was born, and she was born with cystic fibrosis, and so the medical bills and everything, and all of the hardships of what that did, that made him go into engineering, and he dropped the Air Force ROTC deal and became a rocket scientist, and he worked on a lot of different things in that area. But my brother went into the service. He got a scholarship through the Navy, went through the Navy ROTC, and retired as a captain, a Navy captain. So after 30 years, so there's yeah, so there's a lot of there's a strong similarity. And I didn't, again, like you, I did not do the military. And later in my life, I got to thinking later in my life I might have made a mistake not doing that, because there's a lot of great camaraderies and family and friends and relationships who were formed, in those kind of relationships. But back to what you're talking about with your childhood, um, a lot of people when they talk about being a military brat, one of the things that I think is common is not being able to establish a lot of friendships, moving around with schools too frequently and stuff like that. Was that something that you experienced?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I've got some good friends here in the Kansas City area, and we might be out having a dinner or something, and I hear them talking about, oh, hey, Joe over there. I went in fourth grade, fifth grade with him, and then
Right.
I hear them bringing up stories of their grade school and high school. We didn't have that. We were probably at a different grade school, probably 5, 6 years in a row, different ones.
Oh
And then
my.
high school, my last 2 years of high school was here in Kansas City, but up until that point, it was in Miami. We were down at Homestead Air Force Base in Miami. We're down in
Wow.
Louisiana. So we down in Texas, right outside of Callisburg, Texas, which is Dallas, north of Dallas.
Right.
But we were all over. But I don't have the friendship like I can point like, oh yeah, I went to kindergarten with you, Greg,
Right.
or I don't have that.
Right.
I couldn't tell you where all those kids are today. I wouldn't have a clue. So,
Right.
yeah,
And so moving around that much, Ron, it would even seem that that's the culture. I mean,
yeah,
we're going to move next year. I mean, I know
yeah,
that I'm only going to be here for a year or maybe two. So I mean, that's the family culture. I mean, what else? I mean, you mean people do it differently? You mean other people live a different way? I mean, isn't
yeah,
this how people
yeah,
live?
exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah. But the 9 years in
that's really interesting.
yeah, the 9 years we spent in Germany and Holland were you can't replace it unless you do it and
Right.
live it. I don't think people realize. I mean, we went on school field trips, 2 weeks in Austria skiing. I mean, we got to do these things and went to. I
Wow.
mean, uh, we visited the concentration camps. We went to the museums. We did,
Wow.
school field trips, and it was really. I loved it. I really liked it. I wanted to go back last week to Germany for the Chiefs football game,
Oh
and
yeah.
a couple of my buddies we were talking about it, their passport had expired, so we're like,
Oh
well,
shoot.
I guess we'll maybe next year,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I decided to go
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
Cayman Islands
Yeah.
next week with my wife. So
I don't know. I think I'd rather go to the Cayman Islands.
I would do too. I'm looking forward. I've never been there. I'm looking forward to it. We're only going to go for 5 days, but I, looking forward
I've
to it.
been all over the Caribbean. When I was traveling, Ron, I did a lot of my travels to the Caribbean, and the Cayman Islands are a spot that I have not gone to. But yeah, I love the Caribbean a lot. You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
Um, so where did you go to university?
For school, I just graduated high school. I never went to
Okay.
college. Yep.
Okay, so you graduated high school and went straight into working as into the getting referee credentials and such.
Well, no, my first job I ever had, and I got to mention this because I always do, was Taco Bell,
Nice,
1976. At Taco Bell for like 3 years, and
nice.
and then when I graduated from high school, a buddy of mine got me on at a grain elevator here in the Kansas City area. And back in
Wow.
1978, grain elevators were paid more than the UAW, the auto workers. They were
Yes,
above the auto workers. But then all
right,
during the 80s, the auto workers, their salary shot up to where grain elevator just kind of leveled out. But it was
right,
a good
right.
job, good benefits, good pay. So I did that for 13 years.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and in late 80s, I started getting into the soccer refereeing. I actually started refereeing in 83 at the local soccer house. And I'll be honest, it was for extra money. I just go out and make a few extra dollars to supplement my income. And then it just
Right.
started growing and growing. And then pretty soon I was reffing summer leagues down there which was basically a lot of the Comets players playing, keeping in shape during the summer. And it just, you learned a lot from them.
So Ron, doing what you're doing at that point, in this point in the conversation, doing what you're doing with the refereeing, you're doing it to supplement income, have fun, get
Hmm.
outside, that whole kind of thing. There's a lot of other people that are doing the exact same thing, and for the exact same reasons, all around. Doing refereeing youth soccer, high school soccer. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people doing the same thing. What was it that got you to go to the next level?
Well, I was reffing a championship game at the soccer dome, the Kansas City Soccer Dome. I got a shout out to Mike Minnesota. He's the one that got me started on the refereeing because the referee never showed up the day. I was playing co-ed soccer that day, and the referee hadn't showed up. So he was having to officiate the game, and I was one of those players that just yapped his mouth the whole time, you know. So at the end of the game, he comes up to me and says, "Hey, you think you know it all?" And he wasn't being a smartass. He's just like, "Hey, you think you know it all? Would you ref the next game? I'll give you $10, $15. I don't know. Back in the '80s, that was pretty good money." So I did it. I did it for the rest, like 3 hours, and then I came back on a Monday and I did it, and I like, this is easy. Well, I came back on their Thursday night A League, and they ran me out of there. I quit refereeing for about 2 months. I had nightmares of that night. The players were just screaming and yelling, but I wasn't ready for that level yet. You know, I mean, you know, like in the pro level and the college level, when you see the players' mouths moving and the referee, they're not telling you where you're going to meet for dinner that night. You know, they're telling you a few things, what you need to learn, you know, how you, but anyways, I quit, and then they called me back about 3 or 4 months later, and I said, I'll give it one more shot. And then from that on, I stuck with it. So, but, and then I was doing a summer league, championship game in the summer league, and a lot of the Comets players were playing. I remember Gordon Hill and Schrawldy, all the big guys that were playing in this league. I was reffing the game by myself, and there was a referee there to watch a friend of his play, and his name was Essie Baharmist. I didn't know who he was, you know, Essie.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
And he come up to me at the end of the game in the bar. Everybody was having a soda in there, you know. And he says, I don't know who you are. He goes, you did, you know, blah, blah, blah. Here's a card. Get a hold of this guy. This guy will get you registered with the United States Soccer Federation. I didn't even want to do outdoor. I look outdoor soccer. I got to run too much. I'd rather stay indoor, you know. But so I got into outdoor, and I'll be honest, if you do a lot of indoor and then go to outdoor soccer, it's like taking candy from a kid. It's really easier. A lot of indoor is tough. Mm-hmm. I mean, every indoor referee is probably a good outdoor referee, but every outdoor referee is not a good indoor. Right. I mean, that's true. Right. So that's when I kind of started moving up the line, you know, just work hard, try to know the rules, you know, like I've always told people, hey, 100% of the time, I'm 50% right. So try to do your best. You know?
Yeah. So it was roughly what, 1991? Is that when you first started playing refereeing for arena soccer, professional arena soccer?
Herb Silva brought me in '89 as just a third referee, assistant referee.
Okay, gotcha.
And 1991, I was getting some exhibition games, and then when the Comets folded here in Kansas City, it was devastating. But then it was like a blessing in disguise because Steve Siomas came in, who I knew him, and then the NPSL was here for what, 10 years, 12 years? I can't remember. And so it was kind of a break for me. I mean, would I have gotten a lot of games on the old MISL? I think I probably would have. I mean, I think I was moving up. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, I think, you know. And then the NPSL was a blessing in disguise. I mean, doing 40 games a year. I think I broke the record for the most games in one season. I think in 97 or 98, I did 67 games in one season. So that was fun. A lot of travel.
And so this is kind of an interesting connection because it's not like you were, I mean, obviously traveling, you know, once a year in a giant move from one school to another, from one city to another is nothing like packing your bag and going for the weekend, you know, 25 times a year. It's a completely different kind of traveling.
Yeah.
It's a completely different kind of traveling.
Yeah. And I was working at the grain elevator, and I had a pretty high up job. And what started to become a problem was I would get a game at, let's say, LSU on Saturday, in the SEC conference. Well, on Friday, my union or my job grain elevator would come up and put a sign up on the time clock. Mandatory, everybody's working tomorrow, 10 hours. Well, I got a plane ticket leaving in the morning for Baton Rouge. So I called in, I would call in sick. I called in sick for one game, and the game was actually televised on Kansas City Channel 5, and I got busted. I got suspended for like a week. But then my union got my back pay because they couldn't prove that when I had left to go do the game was at 7:30 at night. You're off 7:30 at night. There's no work at 7:30 at night. So
right.
So I kind of wiggled my way out of that suspension, but I knew it was becoming a problem. So I looked at other things, and that's when I started to got my first truck. Wanted to get into trucking business, local deliveries, and then I could quit my grain elevator job, and then I could take off every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday if I needed it. I was independent contractor. So
no, that is what a great connection. What a great connection. I'd like to talk to a little bit. I think this is a good spot to bring in just the conversation about rules as you went forward in your career, learning the rules of the different leagues, not just from league to league, although that's substantial, but actually within any given league as they've changed their rules from season to season. Most of those kinds of changes are somewhat subtle, especially from the standpoint of a fan in the stands. But from the standpoint of the referee, in spite of you saying that 100% of the time you're 50% right, you actually need to be a little bit more accurate than that in your knowledge of the rules as they change. I mean, there's a little bit of a study thing going on. Were there any? So this is my question. Were there any rule changes, either from league to league or from within the league, that really altered the way that you were able to referee the game?
No, but I loved the 3-point and the 2 points. I liked it. I liked the over and back rule we had for a few years. We also had a rule when the ball went out of bounds, where it was last touched is where the free kick went. So if you're standing in the middle of the yellow line, just standing there, and it hits you and goes out of bounds, well, it's going right there where you're standing. I like those rules. I thought it promoted more scoring, more free kicks. But as far as the rules, they could tell us to wear tuxedos out there, and I would do it. I'm going to do anything that the signer tells us to do, and they want the rule implemented this way. All the referees, we're going to do it. We're going to, study, work hard, and try to be perfect.
So what do you take? So then I want to go back to you a little earlier. You mentioned some abuse that you took that sort of set you back a little bit when it first happened. But like you say, when the players approach you, they're not asking how your wife is doing.
Right.
And the same is true from fans. I mean, the same is true from fans, right? I mean, it's very, very rarely do you get, a standing ovation because of a good call.
No, never.
It's usually.
That's why I say. That's why I say 50% of the time I'm right, because they like the call, but they didn't like the call. They liked it, they didn't.
Right, exactly.
So your job as a referee is to go out and try to please both teams, and I've always used this in one of my clinics. But you got to please them. The problem is you can't do it at the same time, so you got to go back and forth. To where there you go, and then you say consistency. That's what players want, fans want. They want consistency. Whether you're consistently bad, just stay bad. Don't go up and be good and then go back down and be bad. They want you to be consistent, whatever it is.
Well, okay, so gotcha. Right. So there's two kinds of takes on the word consistency, and I know what you're talking about. You're talking about to make a baseball analogy. You're talking about the umpire calling the strike zone the same for every pitch.
Pretty much, if they can.
You're talking about calling the flow of the game the same way. Right. Right.
If you can,
so
yeah.
you're talking about being consistent in the way you're playing, the way you're calling the game. There's another thought of consistency though that I think is not. I know it's not what you're referring to, but it's something that comes. I mean, maybe consistency is not the right word, but it comes up a lot of times in social media discussion, which I find actually kind of odd, and that is when someone says that, okay, so the ambush are playing the blast, and at the end of the game, the ambush have, 11 calls against them, or at the end of the quarter, or whatever period of time it is, 11 calls against them, and the Blast have 5. And there are fans that will see that, and they'll say that that's not fair, that they should have the same number or roughly close to the same number. But to me, it's laughable to say something like that because the two teams aren't playing the same kind of game. One team might be playing a more physical and aggressive game. So it's not so when right. Okay, so when one team is playing a stronger and more physical game, they might end up with having more fouls or penalties.
Exactly.
And that is an honest calling of the game rather than any attempt on the referees to make it equal in some way.
Right.
There's a question. There's a question that I have for you, Ron, and this is something that I honestly think I've seen occasionally, and that has happened where a call takes place, a referee makes a call, let's say a penalty, primarily a penalty, not so much fouls, but a referee makes a call on a penalty, and then the next penalty that's called is on the other team on a situation that may or may not be maybe a little bit more questionable than the original one. And it actually does appear that there seems to be some referees that are trying to make an equal number of penalty calls out there in the course of the game. Now, you don't have to admit to it or deny it, but do you ever sense anything like that on the part of any of the referees?
I can't speak for the other guys. I don't think we do. It reminds me of a story. I was doing a college game at the University of Iowa, and it was against Missouri, a women's game. And we go off at halftime, and the coach from Missouri comes running up to me, and he goes, "Ron, have you seen the foul count?" And, on American scoreboards today, we have goals, shots. I mean, Americans love stats, and they have fouls. Well, the foul count was 12-1, 12 against Missouri, 1 against I would have never known in a million years it was 12-1. And he goes, pointing at the scoreboard, and he goes, "You know what that means, Ron?" And I know what he was insinuating. He was insinuating I was a homer. And I says, "No," I says, "it means you got to stop fouling so much." And
that's right.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, I don't think we do. I mean, I really don't. I think the referees call what they see. Has there ever been someone try to make up a call? Hey, who knows? But
right. So with how do you? Let me start it this way. I went to as a youth referee. There's a thing that you guys have to deal with. I mean, it's really kind of the fans in the long run as it morphs into professional soccer. But when you're in youth soccer, the fans tend to be the parents, and parents can be pretty aggressive. And I went to a youth game one time, and there was some just belligerent, over the top belligerent parents. And the referee actually red carded the stands, and he walked over to the stands, and he played a red card to the stands, and he would not proceed any further with that game until the stands were empty. I'm done with you guys. You guys are belligerent. I think what actually threw him over the top was somebody threw a soda can at him or something like that. Some parent threw a soda can at him. And that was he had that.
Yeah, the fans. I think, and I think somebody like Shane Butler can tell you these statistics, but new referees, youth, kids getting into refereeing, we lose like 70% of them the first year. And probably 95% of the reason why we lose them is because of the parent abuse. You can't take 12, 13, 14-year-old kids and subject them to this abuse and not think it's not going to have no effect on these kids, because it will have effect on them and they quit. You know,
Right.
I mean, I know adults that have quit after the first or 2 years. I quit
Right.
for a couple of months. I mean, I was
Right.
not ready for it. It was like,
Right.
you know, so yeah, they need to do something. I mean, I think a lot of the leagues are working towards that now. I'll throw my hands up. I got thrown out of one of my son's games years ago, and it was more of a joke that I yelled at the ref than it was. And he told me get out of the park, and I was like, man, what did I just do? I go, this is embarrassing on my part. And I
Right.
thought, never again. I mean, if you can ask anybody
Right.
I watched my son play 3 years of high school. He quit his last year because he wanted to kick. But I go to the game and I say boo. I say nothing. I put my
Right.
sunglasses on. I sit in my chair. Some of the times I fall asleep, but I got my sunglasses on so nobody knows. But and I have fans. They'll come, Ron, what do you think of that call? I go, well, it was a good call. He's closer than us. I mean, we're 60 yards
Right.
away. He's 20 yards away. So how can you yell at somebody that's 10, 40 yards closer than you, and then you're yelling at him to get closer to the play? You're farther than him, and
Right.
you're telling him he needs to be closer, but yet you're farther. So yeah, parents could be fun. They're fun. So, but
Well, I mean, you've got to have a specific. I mean, you really do have to have a certain kind of personality to let that kind of thing just wash off like water off a duck's back. At the end of the day, because I mean, in most cases, I would say in the vast majority of cases, the verbal assault is in fun from the standpoint of the fans. It's usually not an actual, I think you're a stink bucket individual. It's usually, my fan. I mean, look, this is one of the problems I have with sports, with fans in sports. All right. Every fan to a certain degree is it, well, I mean, you have a favorite team. So when your favorite team is on the field and calls are being made, and I don't care what the sport is, if that ball, if it's a football game and the receiver's in the end zone and he catches the ball in his hand, the ball touches his hands and then he falls and it bounces away and it's called a touchdown. Half the people saw an incomplete pass. If it's called an incomplete pass, half the people saw a touchdown.
yeah,
So and they're gonna right and they're gonna complain about it, enthusiastically from the very beginning. And I try so hard. I mean, I really do. I try so hard to see honest call evaluation on the results on the game and not be the guy. See, I mean, I want my team to win, but I don't want my team to win on a bad call.
right.
I don't want that to be. I want my team to legitimately beat the team on the field. I don't want them to win on a bad call. So that takes me to the question of, and this is sort of a debate that I get into pretty frequently if I engage the debate. Um, and that is, I have a theory that referees do not determine the outcome of games. Almost, I mean, almost so solid about this to the point to say that referees cannot determine the outcome of games. But I mean, I know that's not true because I mean they can, but the point is you're playing 60 minutes on the field, and in the course of 60 minutes, a lot of things are going on. That even if there was a penalty, and even if it was a bad call, and even if they got a goal on it, that you should be able to, in the course of 60 minutes, not let that be the determining factor of the game. Now, there's a lot of fans out there that would disagree with me on that.
Yeah. Well,
What is your take
well,
on that thought?
I've always said bad passes, bad shots, bad judgment, bad choices lose more games than the referees one bad call, and which is the truth. I mean,
Right,
how many times you see
right,
a kid, let's go with a 14-year-old kid, shooting the ball wide open goal, and he shoots it 10 feet over the net. And do you hear the other fans jumping up and says, "You're horrible. How can you make that shot?" They don't, but yet they do
Right.
on these young referees. So, but yeah,
Right.
it's
Good
if
point.
there was
Good
if
point.
you were refing a game and there was no fouls in the whole game, and the last 5 seconds of the game you called
Right.
just a phantom penalty kick, yeah, I guess you could say he just cost them the game, but that never happens. There's fouls called during the game. There's choices made. There's penalties. There's bad shots, bad
Right.
passes. They forgot to cover the guy wide
Right.
open on the goalpost, and I mean those that's going to lose the games
Right.
more than a referee's call. So and the ref.
Absolutely.
Believe you me, speaking for all the referees, we don't want to make a call that determines the game unless it's got to be 100%. I mean, if a trip's a trip, if it's a trip in the
Right.
box, it's got to be a penalty kick. So,
Right. Right.
but
Right. That's right.
yeah.
Um, do do you think that calls get more conservative if you have a tie game late in the game, um, then maybe you're talking about consistency again. Is it Do you think that calls tend to get a little bit more conservative during, say, an overtime period when you really don't want to call a penalty? It's got to be a pretty dang blatant penalty in order to call a penalty during overtime because it may very well be the outcome of the game. Does that mentality ever come into play at all?
You know, I don't know if it probably does subconsciously, but I know when we go into overtime or even in the fourth quarter and it's a tie game, amongst the referees, I'll make little comments like, "Hey, let's let them determine it, guys. Let's rock and
Nice.
roll. Let's keep our eyes peeled about. We don't want to make some call that only four people in the whole universe saw that actual what they thought might be a foul, and the rest, you don't want to make that call. So, do we get conservative? I don't know. They could maybe do a study on that, see how many blue cards there are in overtime and the 10-minute overtime over the last
Right.
5 years. And
Right. Right.
it probably would be lower than the regular season or regular game. So
So then also, I mean, you said you don't want to make that call that only four people saw, but I would imagine you also don't want to make a non-call that was blatantly obvious.
it's
I mean, it would go
obviously,
both ways. It would go both ways, right?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So, but if it's there,
So let's
referees are
get
going to
back.
call
So let's get back to see if we can find any stories. Let's see if we can find any stories out of your career. I mean, okay? Oh, wait, before we go there, let me ask you this question, because this kind of annoys me a little bit. Is
it.
there not a rule in general soccer overall, but in the MASL for sure? But I think it's pretty much soccer overall that the only two people that can address the referee without it being inappropriate or against the rules is the captain of the team or the coach. Isn't that true?
Mhm. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much in any sport, you know.
Okay. Why do
But
you guys tolerate half the team coming up in your face?
a lot of times they just walk by and just say, "Hey, we get the next one," or "It was kind of soft, Ron. It's kind of soft." And I said, "Hey, when I don't call it for you down at the other end, then you can complain, but I'll give you the same call down there." I try, you get a little rapport going back and forth with the players. I mean, the players, believe it or not, and the coaches, they're really good. I mean, I'm not trying to sugarcoat nothing. I mean, they talk to you, "Hey, I told you when we talked the other day, have the dump button ready because I probably got the worst mouth of everybody on here. You ought to hear me at my warehouse, you know." But the player, they talk, and for most, they have a point. They're just like, "Look, I know what you called. We want the same call," is basically what they're saying. And we do. We try. There you go. We want to be consistent.
I get that.
Consistent. So And you
There
know,
it
the
is.
players, like you said, they're all good. There's no there might be a one or two that just are hateful, but really not. They really, after the game's
Right,
over, they'll say hi to you in the hallway, or how's it going,
right,
or
right,
they'll even come up and say, hey man, sorry to yell at you like that. It was the heat of the, I know, we know that the players
right.
are all class. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it just like, oh, you're just trying to.
No,
No,
I know.
they're usually good. There's a couple of mean ones. We call them mean, but when the game's over, they're normal people.
You don't have as much direct interaction with the fans as you do with the players. But would you make the same sort of a statement based on the fan interaction that you do have, like after the game? It's more of a, a jovial, happy-go-lucky instead of a consistent. Or do you have fans that keep the fight going even after the game is over?
Yeah, just maybe a little bit of they might email or text you and say, "Hey, what did you see on that call?" And I don't like to won't say anything I'm not supposed to say, but fans are the most part are really good. I've only been assaulted. Well, I really wasn't assaulted. I've only been yeah, I was assaulted, spit on one time, and that was the old Comets player. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but he spit on me, and guess what? I threw him out. I mean, that was it. And then he apologized after the game and all that. So, but they're usually good. But yeah, the fans are great. I miss the fans more than anything. I mean, I love reffing the
Yeah,
game. I love to travel. I got to a point, and one of the reasons why I kind of like wanted to step away is we Ryan Sigich and Keith Tozier, they have got a great referee program, and the young referees they got coming in. I mean, these guys they're in shape. They're smart. They're great outdoor referees, and they've got a really good program. And it's time. I mean, I could have ref. I told Keith I'd ref 5 more years if he'd let me have a private jet. I says it'll pick me up at 2 o'clock at downtown. I'm about 2 miles from an airport, downtown airport. Fly to the game. Game's over. Pick some Chick-fil-A up. Put me back on the plane. Be home by midnight so I can take care of the 6 dogs we have. And I would stay another 5 years. But obviously that's not going to happen. It became more time. The time I love being here at me and my wife bought 5 acres right here in the middle of Independence. We're right up the road from Harry Truman's house, the president,
nice,
ex,
nice.
back in the 40s, and
Right.
it's just a dream come true. We love being around the dogs, and then when we bought the place, I'm thinking, why in the world do I got to spend 2 hours mowing the lawn now? Because we have 5 acres, it's all fenced for the dogs. And Greg, I love mowing the lawn now, man. I put my headphones on. It's like the most relaxing thing on earth. You just drive around and no
Oh,
worries.
that's
Yeah, I love
so
it.
cool.
But
Far away are you? How far away are you from your favorite fishing hole?
uh, there's a golf course about 6 miles away. The only problem is I can only go fishing. We can only go there when it's raining because if you go on good days, the groundskeeper runs you off.
Right,
And probably over the
right, right.
last 30 years, I've been run off about 30 times. They just yell at you and you just get on into the woods and get out of it. Yeah, I'm 60 something years old and I'm still getting thrown out of public golf courses, but
Nice.
we love then we have our lake house is only 130 miles from here down the Lake of the Ozarks. So
Oh, good.
we go down there
Oh,
in the
good.
weekend, on the weekends in the summertime. So, but
Right, right on. So, okay. So where I was going to go earlier, yeah. I mean, are there any memorable stories? I mean, any memorable playoff series, or any memorable fan encounters, or any kind of any just something that just grabs a story that people may not have heard about before that Ron Cory was a part of.
well, the '94 playoffs, Kansas City, Cleveland. Steve
Okay,
Siomas and I worked the first game. It was a Wednesday night, I believe, or a weeknight. We worked the first game. I got on the plane. That was the next morning to fly back to Kansas City. I no sooner did I land in Kansas City and my cell phone went off. and it was Steve Siomas telling me to call him. So I called him, and he says, "Hey, get back on the plane or get on a plane. You're going back to Cleveland for game 2." And I'm like, why? Because they already had officials assigned to the next game, and they thought we had done such a good job, consistency, Cleveland, Kansas City, and that was a rival. I mean, those teams hated each other, that they wanted Steve and I to do the second game. So flew back to Cleveland. We did the second game. So then the next 2 games were in Kansas City. That was like on a Friday and a Sunday, maybe. I don't have the dates exact. Well, I get a phone call. I'm back at home, and I get a phone call like from Steve Sioma, says, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow night?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Probably I'm going to go to the game. I'm going to go to watch." He goes, "No, we're reffing, me and him." So we end up doing all 4 games. And it'd be like watching the Super Bowl or the NFC playoffs, and you got this referee crew working every one. I mean, I was flattered, and but it was Cleveland, Kansas City. You had Marinero and people ask me, who do I think the best players are? Now, I never got to see Julie V and Zungle. I didn't see them my best player, in my opinion, of the whole league is Hector Marinero, Karich, and Preki. Right there, they were great players. I mean, they were really good. So, but no, we got to referee all 4 games. I was wow. Yeah. So that was probably my playoff.
That's
and then
really
being
cool.
invited to the Final Four 2 times for the NCAA, that was exciting. I was honored, to do that. And then I was in the NAIA, which is, NAIA. I was 7 years gone to the Nationals, So, and then high school, I've probably been 10 times to the finals, but they're all an honor. You get picked, and you're like, wow,
Yes.
I don't think I deserve it, but wow, I'm, you're really flattered.
Well, in the course of that 1994 season, I mean, that wasn't that playoff series. That wasn't something that was scheduled, though. They actually personally requested you.
Yeah. Well, Steve's the signer, and he assigned him and I for the first game. And I don't even remember who was the second game and who was going to be the third game. But whoever, they wiped them off, and then him and I did all 4. Should they have done that? No, we're not that good. I mean, the other referees that should have refereed those games, they were great referees. They should have done the game. But these players, they get in a mindset, they want consistency, and that's, hey, maybe we aced it that time. It was a good series. It ended up being, I believe, Kansas City won 4-0, 4 games to 0.
Wow.
So, and what's more flattering is being from the Kansas City area, and I'm working to Kansas City,
Right.
So that reminds me of the story when I went up to Edmonton when the Edmonton Drillers were in the league. I went up there to go do a playoff game. And matter of fact, to this day, that's the most expensive airline ticket I had ever seen. It was like $2,400 to go up there to ref a playoff game. And there was an instant right before half that the clock was wrong. Everybody knew the clock was off 5 seconds. So what I should have done, stop the game, set the clock correctly. Well, we let the game go, and Edmonton we were yelling to the players, we're going to blow the whistle when there's 5 seconds left in the quarter. Okay? Instead of 0-0-0 when there's 5 seconds left, game halftime. Well, guess what Edmonton's doing with about 8 seconds left? They have a breakaway and one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and it hits 5 seconds, and he had just beat the goalkeeper, and I blow the whistle, halftime. Well, the players knew it. Everybody knew it, but yet the newspaper the next morning ripped us a new one, and it right at the bottom of the newspaper, I got the newspaper article, right at the bottom of it says, incidentally, Mr. Ron Cory resides in Kansas City, and that's who I took the goal for, for Kansas City,
Oh, so no.
But I learned my lesson there. Don't ever mess with the clock. If the clock's wrong, you've got to fix it now. Don't wait. So that was one of my horror stories. I mean, that
Right.
was,
Right.
yeah. So, and that on a, yeah, that on a
That,
one
that's
to 10, on a 1 to 10 is just a 1 or 2. Could you imagine how those NFL referee felt when he missed that pass interference call on the
right.
Saints about what 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago? They had to leave their
Right. Right.
hotel
Right.
room so bad. I said that's pressure.
Yeah.
Because I know we get in pressure
Yeah.
situations, but I
Yeah.
always
No
think,
kidding.
man, it could be worse. So, anyways, so
No kidding. How about a fan interaction? Do you have a fan story interaction that really sort of pops out,
I like the one in Cleveland when I'm
good
coming
or
out
bad?
after the game and it's cold, it's snowy because it always snowed in Cleveland during the season. And this little
Right.
kid
Right.
said he called me. He said, "Mister Ron," or something. And I look over at him. He
Mr.
goes, "Would you
Ron.
sign this?" And I'm thinking he's wanting me to sign a pizza box or so. I don't know. I was never asked that before to sign a thing. And he had my card, and I had forgot we
Oh
had
wow.
signed waivers for those. I didn't even know I knew they were coming out, but I didn't know they were out. And I'm like, hey, that's me. So I bought it from him for $40. And in 1990, 98, that's pretty good money, $40. So the kid sold it to me for $40. I bought it
Sure.
from him. I wanted to give it to my mom. I wanted my mom to
Oh,
have it. So, and then right after that, I think Steve
oh
Sioma
that,
sent me 20 of them in the mail. Finally we got our cards, but that was flattering. Um, Never really had. I mean, I've had
yeah.
fans yell. Yeah, I had one guy for the last couple of years had been yelling, "I should retire. I'm too old." I chuckle. I mean, they're fans. They pay their money. They can, as long as they don't get personal. And same with the players. When I ref, as long as you, hey Ron, that call sucks, or hey Ron, that call's horrible.
Right.
That's normal. I mean, not, but when you start getting
Right.
personal,
Right.
like, hey, that would flip my switch, you know, and
Right.
it would
Right.
end up,
Right. Right.
you know.
I mean, the fans that come in with a pair of Elton John style glasses and put them on in front of you,
Oh,
because
I love that. Oh yeah,
because
yeah. They had fans in Kansas City come out with one of them boards, eye chart, right? So we're
yeah,
coming
yeah,
out
eye
for,
charts.
yeah, and I turn around, I go, hold on a second. So I ran back in the locker room, got my glasses because I wear glasses to read. And then I put them on, and then I did the chart thing for him. Like, okay, that was. And I took the glass. I just interact a little bit with them. Would
That's
an NFL referee be doing that before? Probably not. But
no right.
and we had a lot. I had a lot of fun with the. I'm going to miss the fans the most. I mean, although my wife just
Right.
got season tickets to the Comets now, so we'll be going. I mean, we had them anyways, but we're
Sure.
going to go to all the games, and now I'll be able to yell at the referees instead of saying hi
Nice.
to, which I won't.
Oh, oh shoot. Oh shoot. Okay, so here's another thought that I'm having. I mean, and this is something that I've really never given it, it's never really crossed my mind. But from the standpoint of a referee, obviously you have a lot more fan interaction when you're in a field on a field that does not have glass all the way around it. If there's glass all the way around it, then you have sort of this barrier from the fan base. It, pretty much everywhere except for maybe behind the goals.
Right.
Um, what? How does that affect? Do you have an opinion about that one way or the other? I mean, not from the game standpoint, but from your standpoint.
Yeah, there's kind of a love-hate relationship. I love no glass. I love interacting with the fans and everything. The only thing is the games are a little longer.
Yeah.
So like when you go up to Tacoma, your game's over in 2 hours and we're at the restaurant eating, quick. So when you're doing games without the glass, you just got to hold your reservation for the restaurant a little longer because you're not going to get out there quick enough. So,
Right.
but I like the no glass. I think it's great for the fans, um, and all the fans are good. You don't get a fan sitting there on the side just cursing you out or something. The fans are really good. There's one every once in a while up top somewhere you'll hear him yell something. You're blind or, yeah, hey, okay. But the fans, I like no glass. I think it's great for the fans, and And maybe I'm not speaking for the other referees. Some may not like it. I like it. I liked it. So
That's cool. That's
yeah,
very cool. And
yeah.
and it's interesting too, Ron. I mean, you and I have only very briefly met in person before. I mean, only a couple of times and only very briefly. But I catch a lot of your personality off of your social media, and I would
Well,
expect,
yeah.
right. I mean,
Let me.
I,
I think so. You're like the second person that says that, and I think somebody's hacking my Facebook, and they're posting all this. I don't know. I have no clue what you're talking about. But yeah, go ahead. I like social media. I like telling dad jokes, and you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I'm hoping I'm annoying somebody is what I'm hoping.
That's so
I'm
good.
annoying somebody out there. So
Oh, what a great comeback.
yeah, but
That's what a great comeback. But given that, um, given what I've seen, your responses to some of the questions I've asked about interaction with fans and players and whatnot, is exactly what I would have expected you to say. And that I mean, I would have expected you to say that because I mean, obviously you're very seasoned. As you've been through the wars. You know what the worst possible coming is because you've been through it. You know what the best is because you've been through it. And so when you're engaging at this point, the last few years of your career anyway, I mean, there was an obvious love and affection on a part of the fans for you. You are a fan, probably the fan favorite, I would say, as your career came to an end. I think a lot of us were disappointed, although I'm fully understanding. I mean, 30 years is 30 years. I mean, that's awesome. And now that you get to enjoy mowing your lawn,
oh yeah,
that's
that's pretty.
really
You
cool.
get older, and little things in life, such as that. And I put my 70s and 80s rock and roll music on, man, with my
Yep.
headphones, and it's just I enjoy it. The dogs follow me around, and it's a lot of. I mean, I'm happy. Life's good right now.
Yeah.
And life's
That's
short. I
awesome.
mean, life is short.
Yes, it
Life is
is,
short.
man. It
Yep.
really is. I mean, you and I are about the same age, and it's really kind of weird, man. It's like, you know, uh, one on one sense. So one of my son's friends recently posted his 27th or 28th birthday or something like that, and it's like, what the how the heck can you be 28 years old when you were 15 years old yesterday and I have an age today? I mean, how is that even possible? But from the standpoint of your own experience, I mean, my own experience, it's like, that's what it feels like. It feels like, 40 was yesterday. Time goes by so fast.
It does. I mean, we've got 7 kids, well, 6 kids between us. Um, we've been to every one of their sporting events. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I missed one soccer game for my son. The football I
Wow.
won't miss. And, a few weeks ago, when I'm talking to some of the referees that were getting ready to go to Utica for the referee clinic, and just a
Yep.
little bit, I thought, man, I kind of wish I was going. But then I thought, wait a second. No, I can't. My son plays football tomorrow. Starts true freshman, and I'm not missing that. So I couldn't go. And I thought, and then I heard them all talk. Well, they were Facebooking that they're leaving Utica, heading home after a long weekend. And then that's
Right.
the part I don't like. I was like, I made the right choice. You
Right.
know, I mean, some people said, "Yeah, you should have
Right.
stayed another maybe year or two and just did home games." You don't need, like I said, Ryan's got these young referees that are all
Right.
capable, and they're going to
Right.
be good. They are good referees as it is now,
Right.
and
Right.
the league should be excited about it, and the fans, um, should. But I'm looking forward to the season. Looking forward to going, and might even. I think I want to come out to San Diego when you open your new stadium up to just watch a game.
Yeah, that's going to be next year. That's going to be next
Yeah.
year. And there's some conversation there's some conversation that I may just try and make it out. My brother lives in Overland Heights. Um, is that right? Overland Heights, whatever
Overland Park.
Overland Park.
Overland Park. Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
right? Overland Park. Right.
Uh-huh.
My brother lives over in Overland Park, which is is in Kansas. And
Yeah.
So I may come out to visit that last game of the season when the San Diego Sockers are there in Kansas City. I may make a trip to come out there and take in that game if I can.
Yeah. And if you do make it out, let me know. You can have our seats. You can sit right up front, first row, and you're welcome to have them. So
well, no, I
easy.
mean I want you to be there.
Well, people ask me why I sit so close. I says I can't see from up top, man. I got to be down close.
You're not supposed to. So Ron, by saying that, once you say that, all the fans are going to hear that and they're going to go, "See, we were right all along. The dude is absolutely blind."
Yeah, but
oh,
it's been good. It's been really good. I've been blessed. I mean, I quit reffing outdoor in 2016, I think. And same thing. It was I woke up. I remember it was I was in Starkville, Mississippi, for a college game, and I just woke up, and it was like somebody had flipped a switch, and I just said, you know what? I don't want to do this no more. I would rather be at my lake house.
right.
I would rather be at. It's just weird. I would never have thought it would ever happen in my life, and it did. It was just
Right.
like that. And I told my wife, I go, I'm not going to
Right.
referee. Well, I called the assigner. I'm not going to ref in the SEC or the Big 12 no more.
Right. Right.
Money was good. I mean, we're making $1,000 a game or whatever it is.
Wow.
Not bad when you do 3 games on a weekend. I mean, that's good.
Wow.
Good stuff. But I didn't need it. I didn't want it. And kind of like the same with the indoor.
Right.
And I know I'm going to miss it. I mean, opening game, I'm going to miss it. But I'll still be, like I said, at the games, and I go around and talk to people now. And like I said, now I can maybe yell a little bit at the officials. I don't know. We'll see. Probably not, though.
Ron, Cory, I really love and appreciate you, buddy. I appreciate your career. I appreciate your career. I appreciate what you brought to the game, leaving it all out on the field for the fans and the players and the betterment of the game. There's a lot of referees out there that are taking your spirit with them because they got to referee with you and work with you and team with you on the field. A lot of the fans are going to miss you. I would say all of the fans are going to miss you. If I can speak on behalf of all of them. And I do. I appreciate you so much. Thank you very, very much, Ron, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. We appreciate everything you do. You are like the soccer president of this. I mean, you keep it going, and it's great what you do. So you'll probably have the lowest viewership on today's program with me being on here, but hey, I appreciate it. I'll be glad to do it again someday. But I just want to shout out.
I
just want to shout out to the referee. The guys that I came in on, and the first is like Steve Siomas, Gary Huber, Terry Campbell, and he passed away, unfortunately. Julio Salas, he's passed away. Joe Rudy, and these names may not be, some fans out there probably are getting them, but he passed away, unfortunately. And, probably the sad part, the whole thing about refereeing and even playing is once you retire, once you're done, it's sad how the friendships that you had they go away because, no, I'm not going to fly to San Diego to see whatever. I'm not, but I'm going to try not to do that. I'm, me and my wife, we're blessed. We'll be able to, hopefully travel a lot and go to different stadiums and stuff. I only live 3 hours from St. Louis, so I know I'll be going to a couple of their games. I just like to go watch soccer. It's fun, and seeing the referees and my friends. That's fun. So, but I appreciate you having me.
One of the things No, my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. One of the things that we're blessed with at this point in human history is social media, and if it's used correctly, to keep those relationships alive.
Yes.
A lot of people misuse it, mistreat it, but it's a beautiful thing that if it's used correctly, we can keep those relationships alive. See what people are doing, comment on what people are doing, maybe make plans to get together, in person from time to time. So yeah, and I look forward to seeing you again as soon as possible, whether that's in Kansas City or San Diego. Once again, Ron, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank
Referee
you.
Ron Cory. Yeah, referee Ron Cory, man, what a rock star. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you
Thanks,
later,
buddy.
buddy.
Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.